A lot of reports on the Great Resignation in 2022, and I think a lot of people want to work from home. They don't want to come back to work, and so how do you see that Resignation?
It's a good question because I'm seeing resignation as attrition. But yeah, no, I'm going to relate a story to you, um, which I think in some form, my assessment, and I could be wrong, I'm not the expert on this, but based on my experience, this is what my assessment is, right? When I used to live in the US, we were part of a community in Midwest, okay, Ohio, a lot of friends in the community. Nobody in that community asked me beyond the first level question of what do I really do? They asked me, oh, you work for, okay. No, and after that, there is a full stop. And I'm talking Americans and I'm talking this. They were not very curious, what do you do? What is the big thing you're doing? Or what is the next thing you're kind of, right? And to me, there were three key takeaways. The discussion around that particular point in time was what kind of interests I had, what kind of food we cooked, what are your cultural other things, right? They used to hang out with you because were you an interesting person or were you not an interesting person? Bottom line. Of course, and I'm generalizing this for effect, but I'm just trying to give you a kind of a view around how I experienced it. So when you come back to this Great Resignations, what did it teach me? What did it teach me as an individual going from India, where I know from day one that you have to be getting a job to actually succeed in your life and do this, and every third conversation is what do you do when you get married, what do you do in your work, when you what is it that you do? That next conversation in India is what do you kind of do? Largely in the US, my experience was nobody really cared what you did. As long as you did what you did, it was meeting your economic development. The frame of Raghav Swaminathan was not about what he did for a living, but the frame of Raghav Swaminathan was more about what kind of a person he was, what are his interests, what does he do for the community. That's why I was relevant to that particular community and that particular set of friends. Fast forward now, what is really the Great Resignation? Historically, we have tended to define ourselves in terms of what we kind of do. Okay. And with the passage of time, at least in the developed countries, because of their per capita GDP and because of their income levels, it's not their biggest issue coming out saying that I want to be earning so much. You find in Americans, a lot of people take sabbaticals, do things in their own stuff and like that. If you go back to India 10, 15 years ago, nobody really kind of did that, right? Who will take a sabbatical, right? I mean, you just had to work and keep moving to the next thing. So the Great Resignation is really about the coming together, especially with the generation coming in, just in terms of what they really want to be able to kind of do with their life. And income is not the biggest driver. So they want that. They're not getting defined by what they are working from that standpoint. So obviously, I think the pandemic maybe triggered that. They wanted to kind of go and figure that out. And therefore, you call that as a Great Resignation in some form. People are just reviewing their life choices in terms of what they wanted to basically do. It getting translated into the second axiom around it is flexibility. Are you going to basically get me to, give me flexibility? Are you going to be able to kind of do that? And are you going to do that? I think the Great Resignation in that sense is really just the happening of that in some sense. The remote working and flexibility is just one part of it. But I think the generation shift, if you really look at it, is really about what more purposeful living. Am I working, and I may choose to work for an organization which is I'm so inspired by. And then for me, it is not about really the hours but the organization gives me that flexibility, but I'm ready to lock in 14 hours, 15 hours for that organization because I'm committed to that cause of what it's trying to drive and what it's trying to kind of do. So that's the way I would kind of look at it, just more purposeful kind of an engagement. That's what people are basically kind of looking at. As it relates to India, we are not there yet. For an average Indian coming in, it's still about trying to get the education, do something else and do something else. But let me tell you this, from an Indian diaspora standpoint, or the kind of people, the diversity standpoint of the people in India, lot and people are doing things which they want to do, which was not the case 15, 20 years back.